guys, Jared from Wave to Wave, and I'm doing an article about sort of the ultimate 250 horsepower setup because I really like the 250 horsepower range. It fits a lot of boats, and there's some great options in the market. And even though Evinrude just announced they're not building their 250 HO anymore, I kind of want to go back again to the 250 market because I chose the 250 Evinrude G2 because it's a great engine, it has all these features, and but it's no longer made. So if I was rethinking a 250, I think I want to do a summary of the Merc and the Yamaha because they're both excellent options, and there's a few advantages of each one. And this engine's been made for, I want to say, I think it's like 10 years now or 9 years this has been made. The 4.2 V6 Yamaha was an incredible, it still is an incredible engine, and it was amazing at the time how light they got it, the huge displacement idea, which kind of Merc later adopted. And it's got incredible torque and power. These are like underrated in a lot of ways because you can literally change the ECU and boost the horsepower like crazy. I know Hydrotech has done that with some of their performance offerings. That's another advantage the Yamaha has. It has a long history, tons of sales in the bassboat community, so there's tons of performance upgrades you can make to these Yamahas. You can find them on the used market. They're not cheap because they're great engines, but you can make some amazing upgrades. You can have a 300 plus horsepower motor with solid mounts and a few other upgrades. You can change the gear ratio to a fat shaft, prop shaft as well. And so you have these options to make this into a real performer, real performance engine. So whereas the Merc is newer, it doesn't have those options, but out of the box, it's probably a little better performance-wise. It has the R option. The 250R is exactly the same as the Pro XS, other than the Sportmaster gear case. So you could take the lower solid mounts from the 300R and put them on the 250 platform. So you could sort of upgrade your engine that way if you wanted. There's not really anything on the aftermarket for those new engines. I imagine there will be in the future ECU upgrades, a few other things. This engine still has a few advantages as far as it's actually fairly light. It looks massive. It's a huge engine, but it's about 505 pounds. I think when you actually put it on a hook with fluid in, it's probably 520, something like that, 525. The Merc's probably a little bit more than that if you include some other things in the engine, like the oil, which you kind of have to. So yeah, this is a great engine. Let's take a quick peek around it. It has a pretty cool gear case with 175 gears, and it's this one looks like this is a used one, so it's got a little bit of scratching and corrosion on it, but needless to say, this is you can upgrade these gear cases too, like I said, from Hydrotech, and the aftermarket's pretty strong. And essentially, you can see this guy's got a pretty bad chunk out of his skag here, but they're fairly. Let's see here. You can access those motor mounts really easily. They're mechanical shifting, so they're kind of old school in some ways, but new school in others. Again, it's a huge engine. The cowling in the body is massive, so it almost looks comical on smaller boats. It's really designed for bigger boats, but this is a phenomenal engine. I think you could really make this, even just the solid mount edition and maybe a few other modifications, make this an amazing turnkey performance engine. But we'll compare it to the Merc in the article and look at what the advantages and pros and cons. And again, if you're more into used engines, like I like finding a good deal, so this is probably the best bet. You can find one that's 5, 6, 7 years old. They're super durable, these engines. So I think even Hydrotech has a rebuild program where they sell rebuild power heads. These do have those special sleeve cylinders. They're not like a steel sleeve cylinder. So there's a bit of a thing there if you wear it out or whatever. To rebuild, it's a little more pricey, a little different. I'll get more details in the article about that. But awesome engine. Let's sort of take a look at the Merc and see what's a little bit different about that. It's a larger displacement, totally different design. The Merc has the digital and mechanical option. It's actually a digital engine that you can use with mechanical shifting, but it's actually still underneath it all, it's digital. So that's a huge advantage. I'm a big fan of that technology. I love it. It's smoother shifting. It's easier rigging. And I think I'll get into in the article too, I'm going to revisit is the hydraulic steering systems. C-Star, which is Dometic, they've introduced, we did an article about the Optimist Optimus, I think it's Optimus steering actuator, and it is amazing. And I actually can't wait to try it on a performance boat because I think it's going to be so much better than these hydraulic units. I do like the hydraulic for a lot of reasons, but there's a few problems with them, and there's just no matter what, you're going to have play in the hydraulic system. There's just no way around it. It's a hydraulic pressurized thing. You can have the locking, the Pro series and the Tournament series. They have a locking gasket there, and it's still going to move. Doesn't matter from the wheel. It's okay. And another advantage, well, not advantage, but just reality is when you're running and you have torque, it's going to pull to one side, which is actually kind of good because it keeps it tight. But when you start getting loose or shifts around, then you notice the play in it. So this new Optimus one has this amazing scroll gear design in it. So it is that mechanical part is perfect. So it doesn't have play in it, and there's no lag in the steering from because it's a perfect electronic connection. I thought there would be some lag from the signal, but there's no lag detectable anyway. The one from the demonstration I used. So that'd be a huge thing to test. I'm planning on our next project to use that technology to show that, and I'm really excited about that. I think these hydraulic ones are great. They have a lot of really cool features, but the simplified rigging of the electric system, the perfection of how smooth it is. If you had solid mounts and that system, you'd be looking at a phenomenal steering setup. So let's go take a look at a Merc and see if I can find one in the rubbish around here. Hey guys, so I can't find a Pro XS version of the V8, but this is a 250 V8 standard Merc, and there's a few differences between the Pro XS version. We'll get into do a quick little walk around. So the Pro XS version has optional gear cases, and it has the Torque Master 175 gear ratio, and I believe the motor mounts are beefed up a little bit in the Pro XS, as well as the cowling is actually lighter. So that's why there's a different weight. When you look at the almost exact same spec 250, 225 V8 Pro XS versus the regular V8, this one's heavier. The cowling's a little heavier. So there's definitely some changes. They made some changes to the exhaust as well. All intents and purposes, the actual engine's the same. There's just a few little details, like I said. And so with Merc, the good news is you do get optional gear cases. And like I said, if you really want the Sportmaster, you can order the 250R from Mercury Racing, which is essentially the same as the Pro XS, just with the Sportmaster added. Then if you really wanted, you could probably just order the mounts from the 300R, the lowers, and then in effect you'd have sort of an R version of the Pro XS. And so basically, I think the essence of the article is like how you can take a 250, new one, used one, and just make it a little better than factory. Because right now, Mercury Racing is the only engine company making hardcore performance outboards, and it's basically the 300Rs where it starts. And so the 250s and under, you kind of got to do it yourself a little bit. So you got to, like we did with our 150s, improve the mounts, improve the lower unit with a nose cone or other modifications, and that's all you can do. So that's what we're going to focus on in this article. And it's basically just the Yamaha versus Merc, because that's all that's left now, unfortunately, because the Evinrude's not being made anymore. So that's sad, but